My husband was diagnosed with cancer, and I planned to sell the house I bought before we got married to pay for his treatment. I didn't dare tell my elderly parents, afraid they wouldn't be able to handle it. After much deliberation, I called my best friend. She assured me over the phone that she would definitely help and told me not to worry. But shortly after hanging up, she sent my husband a text message behind my back, deceiving him by saying that I had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer in its late stages. When I found out about this, I confronted my best friend and asked her why she had done such a thing. She said seriously, "I'm just afraid you'll get the wrong person. If he's willing to give up everything for you, then we'll sell the house to pay for his treatment. If he backs out, you'll see his true colors." Just as I was still arguing with my best friend, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my husband, with only 3 words, "Let's get a divorce. Are you at Lily's place? Come back. I've signed the divorce agreement." Lily had just come out of the bedroom after changing her clothes and heard this. She hadn't even zipped up yet. He really wants a divorce? Just because of what I posted 2 days ago about my sister's illness? Yesterday afternoon, I was here talking to Lily. I said, "The agent said that apartment can sell for $230, which is enough for him to do 4 treatment sessions." She slammed her cup down on the table and said, "Don't worry about it. I'll check with him for you." Now that I think about it, what was there to check? I recall the 5 years of marriage, how he would come home late from social engagements, and I would always leave a lamp on in the living room with a pot of soup simmering to help him sober up. I remember giving birth to our child and nearly dying on the operating table. Just a moment ago, I was still thinking about how to reassure him and tell him I would spend a lot of money on his treatment. After all, he is the child's biological father. He hung up. He ended the call first, the busy tone short and abrupt, like a slap in the face. I turned toward the door, and Lily called out from behind me, "Why don't I go with you?" I raised my hand to the doorknob without turning around and said, "No, I should go back by myself." When they got home, her father-in-law sat down on the sofa and pointed to the empty seat opposite him. "Sit down, let's have a family meeting." I had just sat down when my mother-in-law leaned forward and said, "Jin, the doctor said there's not much hope for your illness. Don't bother anymore. Divorce him. It'll be better for everyone. Our family can't afford this." I clutched the corner of my shirt and didn't move, staring straight at my husband. "You have to be so cruel?" He avoided my gaze, rubbing his hands on his knees, and after a long pause, he finally said, "Jin, it's not that I'm being cruel, it's just that there's no other way. This disease, so many people have spent a fortune on it, and it's all been wasted." I never imagined he would think that way. "I won't get treatment," I said, my throat tightening. "What about the child?" "I'll take care of the child," he immediately replied, his tone quick as if he had prepared it in advance. "I'll remember to buy the formula, I'll take him to kindergarten, and I'll supervise his homework. You don't have to worry about it." My father-in-law grunted heavily beside me. "Justin is right. The 2 children will start elementary school next year. School fees, extracurricular classes, none of that is free. We really can't spare any money for your treatment." My mother-in-law sighed, reached out to touch my arm, then withdrew her hand. "We're not heartless. Who doesn't want a happy family? But look at the situation. Why don't you just give up on treatment and stay home to spend more time with your child? At least you can watch him grow up a little, right?" I stared at the untouched cup of tea on the coffee table, watching the dust slowly settle on the surface. It turned out they had planned everything in advance, even rehearsing the words to persuade me to stay alive for the sake of the children. Children need their mother. I must treat this illness. Selling the house will be enough to support us for a while. You have a place to stay now, after all. Are you crazy? My father-in-law slammed the table, causing the teacup to jump. Where will we live if we sell the house? Sleep under a bridge? My mother-in-law got anxious and grabbed my arm. That's the only home we have. It's close to the school. You want us to move and rent a place? How much time will he lose on the way to school? I shook off her hand and looked at my husband. You also think we can't sell it? His face turned bright red, and he clenched his fists in his pockets. Selling the house is easy, but buying another one is hard. Our child is about to start elementary school. School enrollment and the school district, how can we leave this house? So my life is worth less than this apartment? That's not what I meant, he raised his voice. It's really unnecessary. Look at how many people in this world sell their homes to treat cancer, and in the end, they die, leaving behind their loved ones to live in rented apartments with debts. What's the point? My father-in-law chimed in, exactly. You spent all your money, suffered all the pain, and in the end, it was all for nothing. At least keep the house so the kids have a place to call home. My mother-in-law wiped her face and said, Jin, we know you're upset, but as a mother, don't we all have to endure for our children? As long as we have a house, we have a home, and our children will have a future. I looked at them and suddenly couldn't speak. It turned out that the house they had lived in for so many years had become more important to them than their own lives. You're so selfish? I pointed at them, my hands shaking. I got up early and worked late to take care of this family. I gave birth to a son and a daughter for you. Even if I didn't do anything, I at least worked hard, right? Now that I'm sick, you're just going to watch me die? My husband suddenly stood up, his face flushed red. I'm not being selfish. Be reasonable. Reasonable? I laughed out loud. Watching me die is reasonable? If I were sick today, he shouted, I would definitely not seek treatment. If I ended up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and then had a rejection reaction, it would be useless. My father-in-law nodded beside me, he's right. Even if you treat it, it's useless and will only waste time for the child. My mother-in-law pulled my arm, don't argue. We've thought about it for you too. Thought about it for me? I shook off her hand, thinking about it for me means making me stay home and wait. Honey, don't turn away. Lower your voice. Do you know how high the risk of rejection is? If something goes wrong, we'll lose everything, our money, our home, and our child. What will we do then? I stared at him, speaking slowly and deliberately. He tightened his grip on the cigarette pack and looked up with a hard, stony expression. I'm definitely not going to get better. What did you say? I said I won't get treated. He raised his voice, as if afraid I couldn't hear him clearly. Why waste money on that? Save it for the kids' education. It's better than throwing it away in the hospital. My father-in-law slapped the table beside him. Now that's talking like a man. A man has to take responsibility. Responsibility? I laughed out loud, tears falling from my eyes. Watching your own wife die is responsibility? He turned his face away and stared at the wall. I'm not like you. I'm a man, the breadwinner of the family, but you. But I'm a woman, a mother, am I supposed to be sacrificed? I interrupted him. I get up early and stay up late to raise 2 children. When you were away on business, the water pipe burst at home, and I stayed up until midnight fixing it. All these years I've done for this family, and all I get in return is incurable? He suddenly turned around, his face turning purple with anger. I told you I won't get treatment. Why are you still harping on it? Because you know you won't get it. I pointed at him. You're just talking big now. If you insist on getting treatment, then this marriage must end. You can't be so selfish. Think about your parents. They're old and can't take the stress. Think about me. I'm raising 2 children on my own and have to earn a living. Think about the children. They can't be without a father, and they can't afford to go to school. My father-in-law chimed in, that's right. If you don't think about yourself, you have to think about your children. I'm treating my illness, how is that selfish? I stared at him. I want to live to see my children grow up, is that wrong? You're not wrong, but the timing is wrong. He avoided my eyes. With the situation at home right now, we can't afford for you to be selfish. Selfish? I laughed, so wanting to live is selfish. He took a deep breath, as if he had made a big decision. Let's get a divorce. Once we're divorced, you can seek treatment if you want, I won't stop you, but as long as we're not divorced, this money can't be touched. It has to be saved for the children. My mother-in-law wiped away tears beside her. Jin, listen to us. Don't be stubborn. A harmonious family is the foundation of everything. We must divorce. Our family cannot keep a sick daughter-in-law. The mother-in-law followed behind, pulling her husband's arm. Did you hear that? How can she be good enough for you? People will talk behind your back when you take her out. The husband stumbled a little but didn't say anything. Our family has been honest and upright for generations, and we've never had such bad luck. My father-in-law pointed at me, his hands shaking. You're taking up a good spot and not doing anything, delaying him from finding someone healthy to marry and have a strong child. Can you live with yourself? Dad. I gritted my teeth. I'm the mother of your grandson and granddaughter. So what? My mother-in-law interrupted. We'll take care of the children. We don't need you, a sickly mother. If you know what's good for you, sign the papers immediately. Don't force us to take drastic measures. I disagree. I pushed the agreement back, my voice tightening. I paid 30% of the down payment for the house, and you can check my phone bills to see how many monthly payments I've made over the past 5 years. I've paid all the utility bills and property management fees. My husband frowned. Those are all joint expenses. Shared expenses? I interrupted him. The $150,000 for the renovation came from my father. The sofa set in the living room and the bed in the bedroom were all chosen by my mother. Even when you bought this car, the $30,000 you were short, I took it from my own salary account. He clenched the agreement in his hand and didn't respond. You couldn't even bring yourself to treat my illness. I stared at him, speaking slowly and deliberately. How can I trust you with our 2 children? My father-in-law coughed beside us. The children are our grandchildren. How could we treat them badly? They're my children. I turned to him. It's none of your business. My husband suddenly stood up, slammed the agreement on the table, and said, What do you want? Do you really want to take this to court? I don't want anything, I said, picking up the agreement and pointing to the line about the house belonging to the husband. What's mine is mine. I won't give up a single cent. I also want custody of the children. He stared at me, his eyes as cold as ice. You're in this state, how can you fight? Even if I have only one breath left, I threw the agreement back at him. I won't leave the child with a father who won't save his own child. My mother-in-law suddenly stood up from the sofa, her voice rising 8 octaves. You can have the girl, but not my son. I turned to look at her, and she stiffened her neck. My son is the root of our family. He must stay at home and follow his father. What roots? I suppressed my anger. They are all my children. Why should they be separated? Because he is a boy. My father-in-law replied, slamming the enamel cup on the table. He will take care of us in our old age and see us off when we die. How can you take him away? My husband nodded beside me. Mom is right. The son has to stay. As for the daughter, if you want her, you can take her. What do you think these children are? I was shaking with anger. Are they objects to be divided up? What's wrong with that? My mother-in-law glared at me. You're sick. One is enough to take care of. How can you manage 2? Leave your son here. We can help take care of him. It's better than him following you around. I looked at them and suddenly felt like strangers. In their eyes, children were not flesh and blood, but property that could be divided by gender, tools that needed to be kept for the sake of the family line. If you're going to take them, take both of them. I clenched my fists. My husband frowned. Stop being so unreasonable. It's already generous of us to give you one. Generous? I laughed out loud. I risked my life to have this child, and you want to pick and choose? I picked up the calculator on the coffee table, pressed the buttons to light up the screen, and said, the down payment for the house is 460,000 yuan. I contributed 30%, which is 140,000 yuan. The monthly mortgage is 4,200 yuan for 5 years. I transferred 27 months' worth to you, totaling 113,400 yuan. My husband opened his mouth to interrupt, but I ignored him and continued pressing the phone. The renovation cost 150,000 yuan, which was paid by my parents. The furniture alone cost another 100,000 yuan. Even if we account for depreciation, you owe me 50,000 yuan. When we bought the car, you were short 30,000 yuan, which I covered. This needs to be settled clearly. A total of 383,400. I turned the calculator toward him. Even if you round down, it's still 380,000. His face turned bright red. How can you calculate it like that? The house was bought after we got married, so we should split it evenly. Half and half? I laughed. You only paid 70% of the down payment? You've only paid 33 monthly installments? Did you contribute a single cent toward the renovation? My father-in-law stood up abruptly. Our family doesn't have that much money. Then sell the house. I stared at my husband. Sell it, pay off the mortgage, and give me the rest. Sell the car too and give me back the $3,000. My husband's hand was shaking as he held the divorce agreement. Where will the children live after the house is sold? How will I pick them up and drop them off after the car is sold? When you were thinking about where the kids would live, I put the calculator down on the table. Didn't you think about where I would live? When I'm lying in a hospital bed, who will take me to chemotherapy? My mother-in-law was beside herself with anxiety, exclaiming, "You're trying to force us to our deaths. You forced me to this first." I picked up the agreement and said, "Either pay the amount stated here, or we'll see you in court. I'll also hire a lawyer to fight for custody of the child." They probably never calculated how much I have contributed to this family. Either you give me the money now, or I'll have someone come over and tear these things down. The choice is yours. My mother-in-law's eyes widened like copper bells. You're even nitpicking about the renovation? Who saw that? Do you have proof? She pointed at the tiles on the wall. If you're so confident, tear down the house and see which tile has your name engraved on it. My husband chimed in from beside me, his voice low but clear. You've lived in this house for 5 years. Isn't it only fair that you contribute to the mortgage? You can't just live here for free. You've ridden in the car many times, he continued, taking the kids to school, going to your parents' house, every time I drove. Why should I be the only one to pay for it? I looked at them and suddenly felt ridiculous. So, the down payment I made was for nothing? The monthly payments I've been making are just rent? I picked up the purchase contract on the table. It's written here in black and white that I'm a co-owner. Do you want to take a look? My husband's face turned red instantly. He snatched the contract and slammed it on the table. So what? My mother is angry right now, and you're arguing about this? I'm arguing for money to save a life. I stared at him. It's not your family's rent, nor is it the gas money for your car. The mother-in-law sneered and sat down on the sofa. Anyway, we have no money. Do whatever you want. Even if the court rules against us, we have no money. Can you sell us? It turned out they had already planned it all out, to refuse to pay and deny everything, just to avoid paying a single penny. I picked up my phone. You have to take things this far? My husband pointed at me. Can't you think about the 2 children? When I'm thinking about them, what are you thinking about? I stared at him. Watching me die is what's best for them. If it were you who was sick today, I said slowly, I would sell everything I own and even go into debt to get you treatment. He turned his face away and smiled coldly. Don't act like that. It's meaningless. My parents have had a tough life. He turned around, his voice lowering. I'm their only son. They can't spend their old age without a place to live just to pay for your treatment. So my life is supposed to be given to your family? I clenched my phone tightly. Your parents had it hard, but I had it easy? My parents raised me all these years, and now I'm supposed to watch you throw me out to die. He suddenly raised his voice. Can you be reasonable? I'm not refusing to treat you, it's just that there's nothing I can do. The solution is for me to give up? I laughed. In your eyes, my life isn't worth as much as the apartment your parents live in, or your old car. He opened his mouth but couldn't speak, finally managing only, you don't understand. Yes, I don't understand. I looked at him. How can you stand by and watch the person you love die and still think you're in the right? My husband suddenly relented, his tone hard. I can give you the down payment and monthly mortgage payments. The rest, don't even think about it. I sneered inwardly. This was clearly an attempt to swallow up the renovation costs, the furniture expenses, and the $3,000 I had put into the car. He had calculated it so precisely that he even wanted to take a large chunk out of the emergency funds. Sure. I nodded. I took out my phone. The renovation and furniture were mine to begin with. I'll just take them away now. As soon as I dialed Mr. Max's number for renovations, my father-in-law exploded, you dare. Did you build that wall? Did you lay the floor? Can this house even be lived in after you tear it down? The mother-in-law followed suit, slamming the table. I've never seen anyone as cruel as you. You'd rather tear the house down than give in. Are you hoping our whole family will sleep on the street? The phone rang, and I said into the receiver, Mr. Max, bring a few people over and dismantle the redwood sofa set, the wardrobe, and the bed in my parents' bedroom. Also, take down the ceiling lights in the living room. These were all purchased by my parents. Do you remember where they are? My husband's face turned pale in an instant. He rushed over to grab my phone, but I dodged him. He was so anxious that the veins on his forehead bulged, but his tone suddenly softened. He reached out to touch my arm. Don't do this, okay? Let's talk about it. What are we discussing? I looked at him. Discussing how to cut my life savings in half again? That's not what I meant. She sighed, her eyes pleading, just take pity on me, take pity on the children. How scared they'll be when they see the house torn apart like this. How can you, as their mother, bear to do this? There are many things I can't bear to do. I stared at him. I can't bear to see you treat me like trash and throw me away. I can't bear to see my children grow up with a group of people who won't help those in need. And I can't bear to be kept alive by you when I could be living. His hand froze in midair, and the pleading look on his face slowly turned to disappointment. How did you become like this? You used to be the one who cared most about the big picture. Why are you so petty now? I laughed. His so-called consideration for the greater good meant sacrificing myself for the stability of his family. The father-in-law was so angry that he trembled all over. He grabbed the enamel cup on the coffee table and slammed it hard on the floor, making a loud clang. Tea leaves scattered all over the floor. This is outrageous. You dare to do this. He pointed at me, spitting all over my face. Don't you dare touch a single thing in this house. This sofa is mine now that it's in my house. My mother-in-law was even crazier than him. She rushed over and tried to grab my phone. After I dodged her, she jumped up and down and yelled, you heartless poisonous woman. Our family was blind to marry you. Dismantle the furniture? Why don't you just tear the house down? Let me tell you, if anyone dares to touch the sofa today, I'll smash my head on this coffee table and die. She cursed as she threw herself onto the sofa, clutching the armrest tightly as if protecting some rare treasure. I'll see which worker dares to touch her. I'm sitting right here, and if you've got the guts, carry me away too. My father-in-law was pacing anxiously beside me. Suddenly, he shouted at my husband, are you dead? Why are you just standing there watching her act like this? Get her out of here. My husband's face turned purple, and he grabbed my arm. How long are you going to keep this up? Tell Mr. Max to stop coming here. It's my stuff, why can't I take it away? I shook off his hand. You said there was no evidence, right? Now I'm taking the evidence away. Let's see how you deny it. Upon hearing this, the mother-in-law suddenly burst into tears, pounding the sofa with her hands and feet. Why is my life so miserable? I'm being kicked out of my own home. I can't go on living like this. My father-in-law grabbed the broom from the corner of the wall and swung it at me, but my husband held him tightly. Dad. Don't hit her. I'll beat this troublemaker to death today. My father-in-law struggled and shouted, swinging the broomstick wildly in the air. I looked at them coldly. After tearing off their masks, they didn't even care about saving face anymore, and were left looking like hysterical fools. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was Mr. Max calling to say he was downstairs. Downstairs, the horn of a delivery truck sounded, followed by the voices of Mr. Max and the workers talking. My mother-in-law peered out the window and turned pale, grabbing my father-in-law's arm and trembling. They're really here. They dare to come and demolish it. Her father-in-law's eyebrows knitted together, and he took 2 steps back toward the center of the living room, his voice tightening. Are we really going to give her that money? Give it to them? That's tens of thousands of dollars. The mother-in-law was so anxious that she jumped up and down. But if they really tear it down, take away the sofa, dismantle the wardrobe, and even remove the lights, how can we live in this house? It will take at least half a month to fix it up again. What about the children's schooling? Where will the 2 of us live? I told you not to confront her head-on. My father-in-law lowered his voice, sounding a bit resentful. Now you're in a tough spot. How would I know she was serious? The mother-in-law glanced at her husband, who was staring blankly at the door, and quickly pushed him. Hurry up. Go talk to her and tell her to send them away. The worker had just loosened the armrest of the sofa by half an inch when my mother-in-law suddenly got up from the floor and rushed over like a madwoman, her fingernails almost piercing my face. Why don't you just die? Her voice was shrill like glass scraping a blackboard. Someone's about to die, can't you just be quiet and wait? Why must you cause such a commotion that the family is torn apart and the dogs and chickens are in an uproar? What are you thinking? Can't you stand seeing us live in peace for a few days? Mom. My husband tried to stop her, but she pushed him away. I'll tell you this, my mother-in-law pointed at my nose, spitting on my face. If you dare to take anything today, I'll die in front of you. I'll see if you, a sickly woman, can bear the guilt of killing your mother-in-law. My father-in-law was panting beside him, his face ashen, and he agreed, exactly. You can't even take care of yourself, yet you insist on dragging the whole family down. People like you shouldn't be allowed to live in this world. I wiped my face and looked at Mr. Max and the workers, who had stopped working, their faces awkward. Continue dismantling, I said to Mr. Max, my voice cold as ice. I'll take responsibility if anything happens. You dare to be so stubborn. The mother-in-law was so angry that she was shaking all over. She suddenly grabbed the fruit knife on the coffee table and held it to her neck. Take it off. If you take it off, I'll kill myself. I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life with the reputation of being the murderer of a family member. My husband was so scared that he lost his mind and rushed over to grab the knife. Mom. What are you doing? I stood there motionless. When greed and selfishness are pushed to the brink, they dare to use even death as a bargaining chip, yet they refuse to give me even the slightest chance to survive. Fortunately, the one who is sick is not me. I looked at my mother-in-law, who was throwing a tantrum, and suddenly smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Don't worry, I've already asked my older brother to pick up the 2 children from school. They should be arriving at my parents' house soon. She paused with the knife in her hand, and a hint of panic flashed in her eyes. You want custody, don't you? I took half a step forward. Then let's go to court. I'll tell the judge that the child's mother is waiting for money to save her life, but the child's father and grandmother are scheming to take her money and wishing she were dead. My husband suddenly looked up, his face pale. Where are you taking the child? It's none of your business. I glanced at my mother-in-law, who was still holding the knife. It's better than watching Grandma threaten people with a knife. The old woman's knife clattered to the floor. She leaned against the wall, exhausted, muttering, They've rebelled. They've all rebelled. I turned to Mr. Max, the renovator, and pointed to the sofa. Mr. Max, continue. Once you've dismantled these, let's go take a look at the wardrobe in the bedroom. Stop. My husband suddenly shouted, his voice filled with a desperate determination. I'll pay for the renovation and furniture. Tell them to leave. The worker's movement stopped. I turned to look at him, but he avoided my gaze and said stiffly, "But don't push your luck. Don't make my mom suffer anymore." He paused, his eyes darting over with a hint of malice. "Let me tell you, leave yourself some room. If you ever manage to turn your life around and achieve something great, don't come begging me for help." I sneered inwardly. He probably thought that I couldn't live without this family, but he didn't know that I was holding my last card, the cancer diagnosis. If I revealed the truth now, it would be very satisfying to see them panic. But I'm not that stupid. There are still 30 days left in the divorce cooling-off period. If they find out he doesn't have much time left, they'll only become more relentless in their harassment, using our marital ties and the children's well-being to bind me, and may even turn the tables on me, forcing me to give up all my rights. I saw through them long ago. This family only cares about their own interests. When will you give me the money? I didn't take the bait and kept my eyes on the core issue. He gritted his teeth and said, "Within 3 days, I'll transfer it to your account." "All right." I waved to the workers. "That's all for today." As the workers packed up their tools and left, my mother-in-law was still panting on the sofa, and my father-in-law glared at me as if he wanted to eat me alive. My husband stood there, his back tense like a stretched string. I turned and walked out without looking back. 30 days is 30 days. Once I get the money and complete the paperwork, I will have the means to treat his illness. As for them? From now on, they are nothing more than names to be crossed off the household registration. As he emerged from the Civil Affairs Bureau, the wind stung his eyes. His hand clenched the divorce certificate tightly, his knuckles turning white. Suddenly, he spoke, his voice as cold as ice. "Jin, remember today." I looked up at him, and the hatred in his eyes was almost overflowing. "You think you're so great, don't you? You had to leave, didn't you? Fine, I'll let you go. But just you wait. When you're at the end of your rope, crying and begging me to take you back, I'll make sure you can't even lick the dust off my doorstep." I had been secretly worried that during this 30-day cooling-off period, he might notice the unusual weight loss and suddenly remember me, refusing to sign the divorce agreement. But reality turned out to be even harsher than my worst expectations. They left suddenly, as if they had planned it in advance. When the moving truck pulled up downstairs, I learned that my mother-in-law had already asked relatives back home to find a new match for my husband. Her requirements were clear, healthy, honest, and able to have a boy as soon as possible. They returned to their hometown with their 2 children, as if they were getting rid of something they didn't want. Later, I heard from my husband's cousin that before he left, he told everyone that if I dared to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to withdraw the divorce application within 30 days, they would stay in their hometown forever and never come back. My brother said that once you're gone, the 2 children will naturally belong to our family. It turns out they had already calculated every last detail of my final days. The so-called cooling-off period was nothing more than their final ultimatum, a declaration that they were certain I had no strength left to resist. A month later, at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau, he handed me the divorce certificate and said with a smug smile, "See? We're even now." I had just taken the certificate when he leaned forward, his voice tinged with pride. "I forgot to tell you, I found a girlfriend, and we're getting married next month." I looked at him, took the neatly folded medical report out of my bag, and handed it to him. "Here's a gift for you." He paused, took it with a mocking expression on his face. "What? Now you're concerned about my health?" He unfolded the paper, his eyes scanning a few lines of text, then suddenly stopped, as if someone had pulled the soul out of his body. "You." He looked up at me, his voice trembling. "What is this? You've always been curious about why I insisted on divorce and why I needed that money, haven't you?" I looked at him calmly. "This is the answer." The paper in his hand fell to the floor with a loud clatter, and his face turned as white as the paper. I bent down to pick it up and put it back in his hand. "Impossible." He threw the report at me, his voice trembling. "When did I ever have this test done? You forged it, didn't you?" Are you trying to trick me into remarrying? Did you forget that you coughed all night 3 months ago and couldn't sleep? I looked at him. I dragged you to get an appointment and have a CT scan. The doctor told you to come back for a follow-up, but you said you were busy and asked me to pick up the report. His face gradually fell, and he stared blankly at the floor. Yeah, how could he remember? When it comes to family matters, from big things like mortgage payments to small things like the kids' fevers, he always says, "You take care of it." Hospital reports, bills, and prescriptions are always in my bag. He can't even be bothered to look at them. You got the report. Why didn't you tell me? His voice suddenly trembled, as if he had grasped at the last straw. Tell you what? I smiled. Tell you the doctor said it's serious and you need to be hospitalized immediately? At that time, you were busy scheming with your mother about how to get a smaller share of the money in the divorce settlement and dealing with the matchmakers from your hometown. So you knew all along. He looked up, his eyes bloodshot. You knew I was sick, and you still divorced me? What else could I do? What? Are you scared? I bent down, my voice light as a feather tickling his nerves. Didn't you always say, if that day ever comes, I'll end my own life and not drag my family down with me? He looked up suddenly, his eyes filled with terror. Now's your chance. I straightened up, patted him on the shoulder, and said in a cold tone, Aren't you the one who hates trouble? Aren't you afraid of dragging down your new wife who's about to walk through the door? Just find a place to end it. It'll be much cleaner. You. He pointed at me, his lips trembling. How could you be so cruel? Cruel? I laughed out loud. Compared to your entire family scheming to take my life savings and hoping I'd die from my illness, this is nothing. I picked up the divorce certificate from the ground and waved it in front of him. Oh, right, remember to send me an invitation to your wedding next month. I'll definitely wish you a happy marriage and a long life. He suddenly lunged at me like a madman, trying to grab me. I dodged to the side, and he fell heavily to the ground, the medical report scattering everywhere. Stop right there, he shouted, his voice filled with despair. Jin, you can't just leave me like this. Don't worry, I waved the divorce certificate in my hand, I won't drag you down. He got up from the ground, his knees still covered in dust, grabbed my arm, and dug his nails into my flesh. Tears mixed with snot flowed down his face. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by naked fear. You can't leave. The children can't be without their father. They're so young. If they find out. He choked on his words, his Adam's apple rolling violently. My parents are old and in poor health. They can't live without me, their son. He suddenly knelt down, his knees hitting the cement ground with a dull thud, attracting the attention of passers-by. I know I was wrong, Jin. I really know I was wrong. It was me who was ignorant and blind, being manipulated by my mother. He slapped himself hard across the face, his cheek turning red instantly. I shouldn't have betrayed you, I shouldn't have cursed you, and I certainly shouldn't have pushed you away when you needed me most. Give me another chance. Will you remarry me? If one day you end up like this, I will definitely take good care of you, treat you well, and make up for everything I owe you. He looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot, looking so regretful. In the past, I might have softened my heart. But looking at him now, I only felt absurd. Remarriage? I smiled. Do you really think I'd believe that? He opened his mouth to say something, but in the end, it only turned into a despairing sob. The sunlight was blinding. As I watched him kneeling on the ground, I suddenly felt that this was probably his just desserts. At the moment when he needed support the most, he realized that he had already pushed away everyone he could rely on. Not long after, my cousin from the hospital called. Your ex-husband went for a follow-up checkup yesterday. The situation is terrible. According to the nurses in his department, he was practically courting death during the month he spent back home. He drank with people until the wee hours of the morning every day, or played cards all night long, chain-smoking cigarettes. She paused, her voice flat. The doctor looked at the new images and sent him home. He should take care of his affairs quickly. The cancer cells are spreading too fast. There's no point in treatment. I never imagined his retribution would come so quickly. Justin is now harassing me again because of this incident. His face was ashen, as if covered in dust. Seeing me, he looked as if he had seen a lifeline and shouted hoarsely, "Jin. You knew all along, didn't you? You knew I would end up like this." His emaciated hands clutched my arms tightly. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you watch me jump into the fire pit? What are you thinking?" His knuckles turned white, and his eyes were filled with pleading and fear. "Jin, I don't want to die. I really don't want to die." His voice trembled uncontrollably, mixed with heavy breathing. "The doctor said there is still a glimmer of hope, but we need targeted treatment, which will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know I wasn't a good person before, but for the sake of our marriage and for the sake of our child who still has a father, please give me this one chance. I'll do anything to repay you in the future." Seeing him tear up, I felt a chill in my heart, but I didn't feel much. After a moment of silence, I nodded gently. "Okay, I'll think about it." His eyes lit up with joy, and he almost crawled over to hug my legs. "Really? You agree?" I looked away. "You go back first. I'll let you know tonight." He thanked me profusely and left, his footsteps light as if he were walking on cotton. I took out my phone and booked 3 tickets for a flight abroad that night. In the evening, I went to my parents' house to pick up my children. The 2 little ones didn't know what was going to happen. My little daughter hugged my neck and asked, "Where's Daddy?" "Daddy has to go on a long trip." I stroked her head and said, "Mommy will take you to a place where there are lots of candies." The airport announcements repeatedly urged passengers to board the plane. I held my 2 children's hands and glanced back at the city lights. His messages kept popping up on my phone, asking how the money situation was going. I didn't reply and turned off my phone. Some debts can never be repaid in this lifetime. Rather than dwelling on them, it is better to cut them off completely. What he owes me and what he owes our child, perhaps heaven will settle for us. As for me, I just want to take our child and live a good life. 3 months later, I heard news of my ex-husband again. He had passed away, emaciated and with his eyes open. To pay for his medical treatment, my in-laws sold their house in the countryside and were left with a huge debt. They now live in a drafty old house at the edge of the village. Later, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with breast cancer. My father-in-law clutched the last bit of money he had and refused to let go, saying that treatment would be a waste of money. Someone saw him spending all his time at the mahjong parlor, hanging out with a widow, and not coming home at night. My sister-in-law said that my mother-in-law had already been devastated by the loss of her son, and seeing my father-in-law like this, she had completely lost all hope. One late night, she turned on the gas valve and locked herself and that man inside the dilapidated rental house. When the news reached me, the foreign sun was shining on the windowsill, warm and a little dazzling. I watched the 2 children chasing and playing on the lawn, my little daughter's laughter as crisp as wind chimes. Those who once caused turmoil in life, with their scheming, tearing apart, and resentment, have ultimately turned to dust. With a lifetime of selfishness and callousness, they paved a path to destruction for themselves, and no one could stop them.